Hi, Misha here, and over on the main Mishaco channel, we're taking a vacation, kind of getting ready for new videos, and I did a sneak peek of one of the ones we were working on a couple of weeks ago with the Chinese Mac 90 converted into a spiker, and I thought I would do another kind of sneak peek of a video we're working on. We're going to revisit the CETME Model L, the Spanish CETME Model L. This is a roller delay blowback gun, chambered for 5.56 NATO 223. And this new video we're working on is going to have a few purposes. For one, we're going to compare a standard Model L rifle made by HMG Helen Mack Gunworks of STG 44 infamy, with one of the newer ones manufactured by Mark Omar MCM. Also, the rifle version. Kind of talking about pros and cons to each one. And I do actually have mixed feelings. There are things I really like about each one, believe it or not. You would think the MCM would be the clear winner. But really, there are some things I like about the HMG. And that was originally going to be the video. But then this critter just came in. This is the CETME Model LC Carbine. And this is also through MCM, Mark Omar. I don't believe HMG ever really made these. If they did, it was a special contract with kits supplied. But not only is this a collapsing stock version, these actually had a shorter barrel, although this one has a pin and welded extension on to get it out to 16.1 inches. This is from Atlantic Firearms, and this one actually came from Copper Custom last year when they did a run contracted through HMG, built using very nice condition part sets. So both of these are kind of custom guns. Yeah, the CETME L wasn't a gun I initially really set out to get interested in, but it's grown on me. HK, in their roller blowback series, they did, of course, the G3, which of course was based on the CETME Model B. 7.62 NATO, 7.62 by 51. HK never really did a 5.56 for Germany. They did, of course, offer the HK33. This is primarily for export. It was used by a few nations, for example, Malaysia, but were relatively small contracts, although the U.S. did try out a licensed production version done by Harrington and Richardson as the T223 in Vietnam, but it never went anywhere. When Spain did theirs, they went a different direction. This is in no way a clone or copy of the HK33. With the HK33, all Heckler & Koch did was scale down their G3 and made it for 223. But when CETME, which was the design bureau in Spain, started doing their 223 to replace their existing CETME Model Cs, which had been in service since the mid-60s, they really went about it and redesigned the entire firearm from the ground up. Work began in the 70s, and then they had trials between 80 and 82, and by 1984, the Model L was kind of selected to be Spain's next generation service rifle and was cleared for mass production. The Spanish Army would place an initial order for 60,000, and the Guardia Civil, the police essentially, the Greys, would also order several thousand. Production would begin in 1986, and the first ones would start to be in the Army in 1987. And production would continue. The final batch order major contract was in 1991. And these would be built at the Santa Barbara factory. And they would build around 100,000 total. Most would be the standard L version. What really sets these apart from like an HK-33 is the recoil system. It's housed in this buttstock, and the buttstock itself kind of laps over the receiver. The trigger pack is very different. There's not a separate removable box. This is all part of the stamped receiver housing. It also has a very neato bolt hold open here. Has a flip adjustable 2-position with windage adjustment rear sight. Early trials guns and maybe very early production guns actually had more of an HK adapter, but they got away from that quite quickly. These feed from steel magazines. Wikipedia says 30, 20, and 12 round. The only ones I've seen have been either the 30 like this, or the real short 12, like in this LC here. But I'm sure 20s existed somewhere. Maybe for police use. Has, like I said, a roller lock system. It's got a really cool handguard. Single piece here, held on with push pins. Front sight. Adjustable. Pretty thin profile barrel. It takes a bayonet up here on this lug. It also has the lug here for a bipod. It takes the same one as the CETME Model C. It also can launch the same rifle grenades as the Model C. The standard rifle is about 36.5 inches tip to tip. The barrel is about 15.6, 15.7 inches. So reasonably compact. The HK-33, by the way, had a 15.4 inch barrel, so slightly longer. And the standard rifle is actually pretty svelte, especially for that day, at 7.5 pounds. As for the Carbine, it had a shorter barrel at 12.6 inches. If this didn't have the extension on it, it would end right here. And because of the short barrel, it did not have a bayonet lug. It's just not part of the block. And also it could not launch rifle grenades. With the stock deployed, the overall length was just a hair under 34 inches. So about 2.5 inches shorter, stock deployed. With the stock collapsed in, it was just a hair over 26 inches. So about 10.5 inches shorter stock collapse than the standard rifle. So not bad. But because of the metal stock, even though we have a shorter barrel, we are a little heavier. It's about 7.8 pounds. Still not very bad for that era, but yeah. There was also a version called the CETME LV that has a scope mount on top, but yeah, I don't really need a scope mount gun. Otherwise, they are identical. By the way, the LC, the C is for Corto, short. early flash riders on these were these 3-prong style. And then later versions were the birdcage style, much like on a CETME Model C. It's worth pointing out that the LCs seem to all have been made in the last couple of years of production, maybe in kind of one giant production block. But yeah, these had a very storied military career, which we'll talk about. Already by 1998, they were interviewing candidates to replace these. They eventually would select the HKG 36E. It would start to go into Spanish service around the turn of the millennium, and these would start to be surplused out. And then kits have started appearing in America in the past 5-6 years. HMG was definitely the first to do these. They made a acceptable receiver flat. They built with original furniture, painted them green. Honestly, I know it's hard to, maybe believe, but they made a really decent gun. But Mark Omar, who just came to market last year with these, finally really went all out. The HMG gun is definitely a kit build with some wear and tear. The Mark Omar gun is essentially American recreation. For example, the furniture is reproduction. Of course, the receiver is a modern. The barrel is modern. They even modified the original parts they kept. For example, they went to a thinner style front sight post that is more durable, the way it adjusts. They also opened up the aperture on the rear sight, and they replaced the adjustment because the original ones were known to break. So they improved the rear sight. They replaced all the springs, including like extractors and stuff. Now it's worth pointing out, Gen 1 Mark Omars took basically only AR-15 M16 mags. They made them a little tight. But the Gen 2 Mark Omars could take the original Spanish mags. And I have to admit, early on, one thing that kind of turned me off to the Mark Omar was the fact that it could not take the original mags, whereas the HMG could. Now, the original mags are based off an early FNC mag. They're actually pretty crap mags, especially in automatic. But you don't buy a CETME L because you want a cutting-edge battle rifle. You buy it because you think it's cool and it's a fun gun. And surprisingly, these are very nice shooters. Very nice recoil. But yeah, now that the Generation 2 MCMs take the original mags, all the more reason. So yeah, I'm going to talk about in the full video when we get around to it, plus of course a lot of range time, what I like about each. And there are several things. I do like the MCM receiver more because it has this flare behind the ejection port, which is correct to the original. Both of these have it. That works as a brass deflector. The HMG doesn't have it. Honestly, I think the reason that was very difficult to get in the stamping, and they probably thought it just wasn't worth the extra effort. On the other hand, I kind of like the HMG welding up here, for example, with the tube, the caulking tube. The MCM is just a little more blobby. Also, the front of the magwell, which I know you can't see in the video, this is very smooth and even on the HMG, but there's a very distinct line ridge on the MCM. But yeah, there's things that I like about each. It's going to make deciding which one to keep very difficult. But in the end, it'll probably come down to just how well they shoot. I will say that we've had very good luck out of this HMG. But I'm expecting good things out of the MCM just based on other people's reports. So yeah, a little sneak peek of kind of comparing two different makes, not to mention comparing the rifle and carbine. And that should be appearing in the main Mishaco feed here in February or maybe early March. Kind of just depends how the weather cooperates. As I speak right now, it's raining. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you tuning in here on this personal channel. Again, we have done older videos on the HMG CETME over on Mishaco, so if you haven't seen them, you might like to check those out, maybe. If you have any questions, or if you own one of these yourself, I'd love to talk about them below. And if you could, like, share, and subscribe. This is Misha, and John and I both will catch you very soon on the main channel next time.